have much more to say. We just started, right? I'll now invite Mr. Singh to give his views on the criminal justice system and reforms that he may propose.
The delivery of criminal justice, and it is a deliverable. It is a socio-political, legal deliverable, is perhaps one of the most important aspects of any modern functioning democratic society. As Mr. Maharaj has so eloquently said, crime and the failures of the criminal justice system presents an existential threat to the well-being and the social fabric of this society. There is only one way you can fix what is plainly not an entirely broken criminal justice system, but one which is severely wounded, bordering on potentially mortally wounded. The consequences of that are too grave to speak in detail about now, but we need only to look at what is happening in Haiti to understand that if we do not fix this system, that is where we're headed. So it first starts with detection. Crimes are committed, as Devesh has said, 575 murders in a country of 1.5 million people. In the United Kingdom, there are 9 murders for every million people. In New York, there are, I think it is 45, or maybe it might be more. In some of the big cities of the United States, the murder rate is shockingly low when you look at the statistics per million people. So if you have people who are freely committing the most heinous and serious crime known to the law and simply walking about without being detected, you cannot fix the society. So this can only be fixed by a comprehensive regime of detection, and it first starts with that. So what do? You equip the police, as has been done in previous administrations under Mrs. Persad Bissessar. The most comprehensive outfitting of the police has always been in the tenure of the UNC, from 1995 to 2000, and then from 2010 to 2015. But it doesn't stop there. It requires comprehensive, focused training of police officers, the creation of specialized units who are trained, equipped, well-funded to go after violent crime. Then, when persons are arrested, what do? Do you just simply admit them to bail without any corresponding obligation to society? No. The simplest solution for an overnight drop in crime, and I've said so repeatedly, is you put an electronic bracelet on every person who's charged for an offense and on bail for an offense. The statistics have shown that violent and serious crime are committed by repeat offenders. The fancy sociological term is recidivists, okay? No one wakes up in the morning and commits a series of murders for the first time in his life. Every time he commits a crime and he's not caught or he's released on bail, he is further emboldened to commit more crime. So the easiest and the quickest is to put an electronic bracelet on him, modify the terms of his bail, prevent him from consorting with known criminals. So when the police see 10 electronic bracelets assembled in one small room, You know what taking place there? Is a confederacy of criminals meeting to decide what they're going to do. So the police gathers intelligence. Okay? So quite apart from that, then you move to the court system. At present, you have not even 15 courts, criminal courts, in their size, sitting to decide over 600 pending murder indictments. You do the math. When do you think we are going to finish that? Do the math. It's an impossible task. Or some would say it's a Sisyphean endeavor, attempting to roll a big boulder up a hill. It will never happen. It's going to roll back down and crush you. So unless we do something like that, we are going to be inundated with a wave of crime that is going to take us beyond any point of return. So you have the bail. That is the easiest thing. Then you have prison reform. So you know what? When you get a prison sentence, let's say you get 6-year sentence, you automatically get 1/3. So when the prisoner leaves there, he gets 1/3 off for good behavior. But guess what? He is free to do whatever he wants with his 1/3 benefit. He has no corresponding obligation to behave himself. So you know what? Don't take away the 1/3 sentence, but amend the law in such a way that every prisoner released from prison has to behave himself. If he commits a crime or breaches the terms of his release, you go right back to finish your 1/3 sentence. So you're not getting a free discount. And there are many other, I think I'm over my time, but there are many other things that we will develop as the discussion goes on.
I just want to commend my two very senior colleagues of sticking to time. Time is money in the legal profession. But I just want to take off 2-3 points that Mr. Singh would have raised. He raised something about the detection rate. The official statistics from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service shows that in the year 2024, we have a detection rate of 8%, which means from May 2024, of 233 murders, only 18 were detected. 18. For the year 2022, which is the highest murder rate we ever had in Trinidad and Tobago, 604 murders, the detection rate was 79. 79, abysmal detection rate. And I just want to share one particular statistic with you. When the government introduced the policy with the decriminalization of the marijuana and the abolition of preliminary inquiries, Mr. Al-Rawi, then the Attorney General, indicated that 30,000 cases will just fall off the magistrate's court. You wouldn't have all of this caseload in the magistrate's court. Now, a colleague today shared with me an email. So if you get a traffic ticket and you want to challenge a ticket, you file a notice to contest. The person filed a notice to contest, and the adjourned date, the offense was allegedly committed in October 2024. The adjourned date for the matter to be heard, not the trial, just a status hearing, is the 16th of August 2029. 16th of August 2029 for a traffic offense that was allegedly committed in the year 2024. So I leave you with that brief revealing fact, and I pass you over now to the opposition leader for her views on the criminal justice system.
Thank you, MP Saddam. Thank you, MP Saddam. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We talked earlier about justice delayed is justice denied. It reminds me of people waiting for surgeries in the hospital. You remember I talked to you about health reform as well. We had a meeting, a town hall on healthcare. So they kicked the can down the road, as our friend here, Mr. Jagdeo Singh, told us about Sisyphus, the children of Sisyphus, that you keep trying to push this big boulder up a hill, but it will come back down and crush you. So the backlog in the courts, a tremendous backlog. Why is it that this government has not moved to increase the number of courts? Why is it that this government has done nothing? And then what do? Blame everybody. So they blame the judiciary. They say because of the judiciary we have these backlogs, Jagdeo, but it can't be because, as you've explained, it's a serious matter with the number of cases, the number of courts, the number of judges. They seem to have no care for justice in Trinidad and Tobago. And then, as I say, they blame the DPP. They blame the judiciary. But they only blame lies upon themselves for not coming up. Look, Jagdeo Singh in 2 seconds was able to give us 2 things that could be done almost instantly. I remember we passed the law for the GPS bracelets. And it took them 9 years. I'm not even sure if it's fully implemented yet. Take your mic.
In 2011.
In 2011, for the bracelets. And that is such a brilliant plan. They took years. Because why? Maybe they were planning to think, well, whom to give the contract to bring in the GPS bracelets. I said, John Abraham nodded, and Mr. McIntyre, you all were back there in the day. You will know what I'm talking about. Who will they give the contract to import the bracelets? That was more important than getting functioning bracelets. And our friend Devesh here talked about it, women and children. I have never seen such a savage time in our country. You know, I met with a senior police officer last evening, and he was saying, you know, in the past when bandits came, if there were women and children around, they would not move to murder and kill. They would not kill. But nowadays, you're holding the child in your lap, and the gun explodes. We have become a very brutal place. And why? It's because the justice system is broken and needs fixing as soon as possible. We will do that. When you put us back, we will do it. Jagdeo made a point, when the UNC is in government, the crime is at the lowest. Every time the PNM goes back into office, what happens? Crime goes up, and you've heard the numbers. And Jagdeo raised a very important point when he talked about Haiti. What we are seeing here is really the trajectory for Trinidad and Tobago to become the next Haiti. We are Haitianizing Trinidad and Tobago because crime, all-time high, the justice system is broken, the government has no solutions, no plans, except to blame everybody else. So first is blame Kamla. How long you blame before, man? It's 10 years, so you know. They govern in the rearview mirror. So let me not exceed my time as I hand back to Saddam as we carry this program along. Thank you all. Go ahead, Saddam.
Thank you very much. So we want to go right into our second topic, which deals with the civil division of the High Court. And this comprises issues such as probate, deeds, land, will, companies registry, and also matters that are non-criminal. For example, persons who may have gotten in an accident, breach of contracts, those types of matters. So I now invite again Mr. Devesh Maharaj to lead the discussion on this topic.
Thank you again, Saddam. The civil side, which is dealing with non-criminal matters, is not a very sexy topic to talk about. But I want to ask you all something. Many of you all have filed cases in court. Land matters, somebody encroached on your boundary, somebody owes you money. How long does it take for you to get a judgment in this country? Yes. Real yes, right? Do you know in the UK, they have now brought down the time from filing your action to hearing, a judge hearing your matter, 1 year. In the Court of Appeal in the UK, filing your appeal to the hearing, 8 months. In Trinidad and Tobago, we are burdened by the length of time for the delivery of justice. As the political leader said, justice delayed is justice denied. So many people have filed actions in court. They have died waiting. Their children have to take over the matter. It's hard. What is the solution to these things? In certain Caribbean countries, for example, they have passed a law called a time limit. What is a time limit? A time limit means from the time a judge hears a matter, they have a specific time in which to give a judgment. But that is the end of the matter, right? So you cannot delay more and more. But more importantly, brothers and sisters, what has been employed throughout the world, throughout the civilized world, is something called ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution. So in other words, by the time you file your action in court, every year the Honorable Chief Justice, when he speaks to us, when he gives his report, he laments. He said, what else is there to do? There's so many cases. Trinidad is a country, everybody wants to sue everybody for something. I don't understand what's going on. If you throw rubbish in your yard, you want to sue. If you look at yourself, somebody too hard, you want to sue. So cases are backing up in the system. So what has been used in other countries is something called mediation. Mediation. Now, Trinidad and Tobago, in the High Court, they tried something called mediation for a period in time. It was a pilot project. But since the pilot project was finished, I think in 2016, 2017, it has not been followed through in a very aggressive manner. I would have thought that the executive in Trinidad and Tobago could have approached the judiciary and say, why don't we consider changing the rules, asking a rule to be put in for mediation? There's none. What is mediation? So the matter comes up before a judge, and the judge says, you know, this is a matter, two family members fighting, let's send it to a mediator. I don't have to get involved. Precious judicial time is not involved. And you have a qualified mediator like Saddam. Saddam is a good mediator. Saddam will sit down and he would listen to Rudy and he would listen to Tim. And within 5 minutes, Saddam will solve the problem. Otherwise, they wait 2 years in court. But I don't know if Tim will solve the problem with Rudy. But I mean, I'm just making a guess there. But this is civilized ways of how you approach to deal with matters that are filed. Otherwise, for the year, I think 3,000 or 2,000 cases are determined, but the backlog is so much, 40,000, right? And there's nothing being done about it from, I would think, from the government side in applying the necessary, you don't have to apply pressure, it has to be representation, right? The rules in Jamaica, for example, within the rules of the Supreme Court, there's something called mediation. It is put into the rules so that when the matter comes up before the judge, he can decide how to do it. We need to solve the problem. In Ontario, Canada, when mediation was employed, 96% of all cases were resolved. 96% using mediation, and not just using the judiciary. If we burden the judges, they work very hard. Eh? I appear before them every day. They sit, they work hard, they deal with the situation, but they just cannot. It's a huge mountain of cases. Let us employ mediation. Let us use that. I am sure, political leader, when you get in next year, that is one of the first things that you are going to put to solve the backlog in Trinidad and Tobago. You're going to make the necessary representations to get it done. My time is past, but there's so many problems too with normal things like the company's registry. You ever try to register companies? There's something called a cross system. You have to get a number. People who can't use the email are bouncing their head daily. Then you have to get a ticket. Then you have to go into the company's registry and file. It's crazy. And then the Honorable Minister of Finance says we had until, I think, the end of the year to file our returns. Then he changes it to the 13th of December. Everything is in a panic. Everything is in a state. We don't know what is going on. Lawyers are going crazy in Port of Spain with this. Probate. Somebody dies. You would think that is the easiest part of your life? Brother, that is the hardest part of your life. To get a grant, right? You have to file the documents. Now, if you file something bad, there's something called queries. How do you get a query? You have to send an email. Then they have to give you a date for the query, 6 months down the road. right? You can't even go into the counter and say, excuse me, what is the problem? It's a small problem, can I solve it? You have to wait. The delays are enormous. So in the whole system, justice delayed, length of time, all of these things can be cured with simple remedies, simple measures. All it needs is a little initiative. It needs someone to say, I am going to solve this problem. I am going to make life better and easier for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much. My time is over.
I'll now invite Mr. Singh to address us on this topic.
I just want to borrow a phrase from my good friend Devesh. Each judge assigned to the civil side of the High Court is struggling under a mountain of cases. A few years ago, they introduced something called the docket system. So each judge has a docket. A docket is the number of cases assigned to that particular judge. Each judge in Trinidad has, on the average, at least 500 cases assigned to that judge. You sit in court every day. When are you going to get time to write your judgments? You have so many judgments to write, so many cases to do. You have work to do in chambers, all sorts of objections to decide, procedural rules. When is the judge actually going to get the time to write the judgments? Trinidad has some of the most hard-working judges you will find. The problem is the judges just have too much work. And it goes back to what the political leader said. The solution to that is a simple one: more courts. More courts. Create specialized divisions of the High Court. You have a specialized commercial court with specialized rules, as they have in the UK, that hustles commercial disputes through the High Court, so that not the big contractors, you know, the little disputes that people have concerning 1 and 200 and whatever it is, but small disputes, that is the lifeblood of any small business, being tied up in court, people being denied their judgment. And guess what? Whilst litigation is going on, and Devesh and I have the bitter experience of that contractors enter into contracts with state companies, and when they lose all the cases, like a thief in the night, they go and they get an order to wind up that company. So all the contractors, from Toco to Cedros, left with empty judgments which they can't enforce. And if a state corporation behaves like that, what do you expect the common man to do? So that's what you do. Create specialized divisions of the High Court. You know, in England there's something called a technology and construction court, because they've recognized that it is a specialized area of law. There is a commercial court. There's an administrative court where regular people who are discriminated, who are wronged by public authorities, you can go to the administrative court and you get your justice quickly from a specialized judge. As it is, the way the civil justice system works in this country is everything is thrown into the mix, and it's the luck of the draw. So you have cases which have the most complex technology or construction or whatever it is, going before judges who have never practiced in that area. So it takes them a while to get up to speed. They have staff. But guess what? If you have specialized courts, you have judges who will cut through the case and say, listen, fellas, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to hear all of that. Address me on so and so. This is the point in the case. Right? And talking about delay and justice for children, there is a particular case where the mother made an application for maintenance of a minor child, and Devesh knows the case I'm talking about. That child is grown and working today and probably is married and has children. and the judge still has not delivered the judgment that the mother went to court to get the father to pay maintenance to assist her to mind that child. Leader says justice delayed is justice denied. How in any civilized system of justice could one lend countenance, or could one say that that is right? A child, and you don't give this judgment. And the child is now, the last I heard, the child is married and has children of her own. And the judge still has not delivered the judgment. And guess what? The judge is 1 year away from retirement. And that is not, those are not unique problems, you know. Those are problems that beset and besiege the civil justice system. It is not, the delay in the civil side is not as bad as the delay on the criminal side. But it is bad. And the problem, the challenge we have is how do you deliver specialized justice to your citizens in a timely, expeditious, and most of all, a cost-effective manner. Because your little commercial dispute, your little land fight is worth just as much as a huge $1 million fight by two big companies, you know. In your mind, it is worth just as much. So there shouldn't be any discrimination as to why those cases cannot progress as quickly as other cases. And the answer to that lies in the creation of specialized divisions of the High Court. You do any search, and you will see on any given day that judgments are delivered by Commercial Court, Technology and Construction Court, Probate and Administration, Admiralty Division, all staffed by highly specialized judges who are able to deliver justice on a timely basis. And that's the challenge that Devesh was talking about, and I share his sentiments with regard to that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Singh, for those revealing facts that you have shared with us. Again, I want to provide some statistics for you all. The judiciary normally provides what we call an annual report, where they will account for the total number of cases, the amount of money spent over the years. When you look at the judiciary's website, the last report that we can find was the 2020 to 2021 report. So that's about 3 years ago. The total number of civil high court matters as at the 31st of July 2021 is 5,992 matters that were active before the civil court since July 2021. And hundreds of matters are filed every year. So that's the backlog that we're dealing with. The Trinidad Guardian has an article by Joshua Simangal, and an FOIA was sent to the judiciary asking for the total number of pending probate matters that there's before the registry. As at October 2023, there were 14,915 pending probate matters. 14,915 as at October 2023. And when the article goes on, and I want to read this, it says between August 1 to 2020 to July 31, 2023, 7,690 probate matters were completed. With 7,690 probate matters completed in the 1,095 days between August 1st, 2020 to July 31st, 2023, it works out to around 7 probate matters being completed a day. 7 a day, and we have a backlog of about over 15,000. It probably climbed by now. And also, Mr. Singh raised issues with respect to, and both Mr. Maharaj, with respect to the probate and the company's registry. But I want to also give you another side of it too, which is deeds. People like to buy land in Trinidad and Tobago. And the process for registering a deed is so onerous and unnecessary. When you bring the client to the office, the client signs the deed, whether the transfer or RPO. You have to send a copy of that together with the valuation reports to the BIR office. So you're paying a clerk to go to the BIR office. They will take a couple days to assess it. You have to pay the clerk to go and pick up the assessment and bring it back by the lawyer office. The client now has to go to the bank, cut a check to the BIR. The clerk has to go back to the BIR, drop off the deed to be stamped with the check. Then they have to collect the deed, carry it to the Ministry of Legal Affairs to register it, order the certified copy, and all of that you are paying the clerk each time he goes to the registries, to the departments. Why Minister Imbe talks about this cashless society and electronic transactions? Why it is you can't have this deed registered, assessed, everything at the lawyer's office? We have high court trials taking place at offices, but you have to go about 2 or 3 different departments to register a single deed. And one point, political leader, I would want to bring to your attention, which a surveyor brought to my attention, is that there are 2 types of lands in Trinidad. We have the common law title and the RPO title. There are persons who have RPO title because they would have been, they got it through inheritance. They may not have the money to develop the land. In order to cut up that RPO land, you have to get something called local health approval for subdivision, which means you have to go and build a road on the land. You have to build box drain on the land for drainage. You have to put up infrastructure on the lands. So that person does not have the money to develop that land. So that is why there are so much lands in Trinidad and Tobago underdeveloped, because people simply don't have the money to put out for that. So I'm asking you in your next government to consider bringing some relief to those people. So I now pass you on to the political leader.
You know, I think this is a most interesting town hall. Whatever info we're getting, data we're getting. I mean, can you give the panelists, again, a round of applause? You see, they are in the practice of the law, and they're in the field, and they know what the goods may be, or the goods on the bads may be. You know it inside out, and that is why I thought we would bring them as senior lawyers, and our junior lawyer is doing very well as well, MP Saddam. Thank you so much. I will not speak very much, because I find it most interesting suggestions coming from our panelists here. I will just want to say, I think one of you talked about in Trinidad everybody wants to sue everybody else, but we are known as one of the most litigious societies, meaning the most court matters. People just like to go to court, and then why do they do it? They want justice. And then what happens? You told me about this case, where the child is now an adult with children of her own, a judge is about to retire, can't get a judgment. Again, the delays in the system, talking about the lands registry, talking about the probate registry, everything is in backlog. So I like the suggestion from both our colleagues, the one for mediation, for us to really put more emphasis on the mediation, which can hasten the process for persons to get justice and don't have to end up killing each other. They can sit and do the mediation, you know, and work it out. You have a problem with your brother or your sister with a little piece of land or one lot of land, it can be worked out. We don't have to spend 10 years, by which time you did and the brother or sister did too. So I like the concept of putting emphasis on mediation. And then Jagdeo, what was that? You see, now you come to blame the lawyers. You see how easy it is? So you blame the judges, you blame the DPP, and now we have 4 lawyers on this platform, and you want to blame the lawyers. I don't agree with that. Again, they're explaining the problems faced in the whole system, and we still need the lawyers, huh? With all the lawyers, it's even worse. So, on the issue of specialized courts from Jagdeo Singh, the answer to that is, of course, yes. But there is another factor. It has to do with the resources to the judiciary. It has to do, you said, more courts, more judges needed, and specialized courts for expertise. But there's another factor, and I'm waiting to see what the government does. They have laid the 120th SRC report in the Parliament. There's been a lot of noise about it in the public domain, because it gives to the Prime Minister his highest ever raise if he accepts it. This is the first time in the history of a country that the Prime Minister would be, if they accept that report, would be paying more than the President. So I'm watching and waiting to see what happens. But I will say this, I do not believe the Prime Minister should get an increase at this time. I do not believe the President should get an increase at this time. I do not believe that Kamla Persad, Bissessar opposition leader, should get an increase at this time. No. Now is not the time when you're offering people 1% and 2% and 4%. It is obscene. It is obscene. It is disrespectful at this time. However, I started about judges. The judges should be given the increases in the SRS report. The public servants should be given the increases in the SRS report. They're hard-working people. And if this is what has been assessed. But, you know, I want you to remember this. There is something also obscene for politicians to have the power to decide on their own salary increases. So that SRC report has to come to the parliament, and guess what? The Prime Minister has a majority with his members. Does he say yes? You know, the media has been hounding me. What did I have to say? What do I have to say? I had said it before when they brought the 116 report, the one they brought before, and they sent it back saying things were wrong in it. From then I've been saying the politicians should not be given the increases at this time. But I fully agree that the judges should be given increases and the public servants and the various ministers. We are in agreement with that? Yes. Now is not the time. The time is not now. When I call on the Prime Minister to tell us what is his view on this report, I said the press hounded me down what I had to say. Nobody never asked the Prime Minister what he had to say. We filed a question in Parliament on Prime Minister's question day. David Lee, I asked him, MP Lee, you know, they rejected the question. The question was to ask Prime Minister, what is your view on this latest report? Well, everybody wanted to know what Kamla has to say. Well, Kamla says no to the Prime Minister, no to the President, and no to Kamla. Not at this time. I thank you very much, and we support judges getting higher salaries. They are overworked and underpaid. And hello, the lawyers are overworked and underpaid too, by the way. Thank you very much, Saddam. Over to you.
Leader, can I crave your indulgence to mention something which I forgot to mention? And it has to do with DNA evidence, and I beg you for 1 minute. It has been touted that DNA evidence is the new gold standard for the detection and prosecution and conviction of criminals. But I want to let you all into a little secret. 3 weeks ago, the Privy Council delivered a judgment in which they have set the standard for DNA evidence at a level that no lab in Trinidad will be able to satisfy. None. I have a pending judgment in which I have asked the Minister of National Security whether he has entered into any partnerships with any accredited labs. And they have not provided the answers yet. They have not laid the DNA reports because in the DNA Act there are several stages you have to follow. And none of the partnerships, none of the labs in Trinidad are credited with the 4 labs that the DNA Act says that you should form partnerships with and receive accreditation. So the gold standard after the Washington judgment, I don't know how that's going to apply, and no one has sought to address it, even though they have said consistently that they move towards scientific evidence. I don't know how that's going to happen. Leader, thank you very much for that 1 minute.
So, just taking off from that, that issue that Mr. Singh had raised, that DNA Act was an Administration of Justice Act that was passed under the tenure of the partnership government, where we realized that front-loading cases with forensic evidence will drive plea bargaining even stronger. Once you see the evidence against you, especially strong scientific evidence, you would have the cases finishing faster. You don't run a trial for many years. You don't have these people on remand for all of those years. Political leader, I want to tell you something. When we had asked the Minister of National Security about this new forensic center that they are going to build, they entered into a partnership with China. Do you know that they didn't even have the land to build the center on? They only cleared up the land dispute probably this year somewhere in Mount Hope before they're now going to start breaking ground for the construction of that new forensic center.
Well, guess what? None of the accredited labs in the schedule to the DNA Act are located within 1,000 miles of China. They are in England, the US, Canada, and the UK. Not a single Chinese lab is named in the DNA Act. I don't know how they're going to achieve that, but that's what the law is.
Well, we are in some interesting times, and those will be some of the matters that we will take into consideration when rolling out our final manifesto, because this exercise here is to hear the views of the ordinary man and the professionals with respect to charting the way forward for Trinidad and Tobago. So while we are on this topic of the criminal justice system, we want to now focus and throw our attention to more of the rehabilitation and reform, but yet we can still tie it back to some of the inefficiencies with respect to the entire justice system. So I now invite again Mr. Maharaj to give us his views on this topic.
Thank you, Saddam. I got a WhatsApp message this morning from a group, a well-intentioned group who visited the youth training facility yesterday. So they go, they meet the young people, they try to motivate them, encourage them. This is the message he sent me this morning. I wouldn't call the guy's name. 17 years old, national champion youth, national youth boxer, certificate in graphic design and life skills from YTEP, currently preparing to write the following CSEC subjects in January: English, Principles of Business, Social Studies, etc. The officer in charge, this 17 years, the officer in charge has requested help in securing a job for the above-mentioned inmate who will be leaving the facility tomorrow, which means you'll be leaving today. A 17-year-old maybe fell off the wagon. All of us may have fallen off the wagon at some point in our lives. He's coming out. There's no halfway house. You know what's a halfway house? A halfway house, you come out from prison, they allow you to stay as 3 months or 6 months to catch yourself, to get to know your people around, hopefully get an employment. This guy is coming out, no halfway house, no employment, 17 years. What is he going to do? Do we have the facilities? Or when someone commits a wrong act, do we condemn them forever and say you have done something bad, we throw you away, we don't have nothing to do with you? President Barack Obama made a famous statement that resounds from time to time in people who talk about these things. He said, United States of America is a land of second chances. You must give people second chances. That was what rehab is about. So this young chap is coming out, 17 years, nothing. And I will give you a personal experience that I had. We do a little charity in Porous. So there's this guy that we give food to. He's huddled in a box under a dark building. And after many months, he started to talk to us. His name was Curtis. Curtis has been living on the streets for 20 years. I befriended Curtis, found out who his family was, started to bring him to assist us. He was on drugs. He has been on drugs for 20 years. I said, and one day he came to me and said, Mr. Maharaj, for the following year, please, I don't want to be on the streets. I don't want to be on the drugs. I said, Curtis, let's get you into a rehab. According to medical science, and doctor will perhaps tell us, Tim and so on, to break you from that habit requires maybe 9 to 12 months. You can't do a short-term program to break you from that habit. You have to dry out and go in and so on. There was only one facility in Trinidad, and that was at the Dolce's compound in Piparo, which they opened. To get Curtis into the program was the hardest thing. He had no papers. He had no birth certificate. To get a birth certificate took 3 months. the runaround was tremendous. You'd swear he was from Grenada or Argentina or something. They didn't want to accept the man as though he was a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. Then we had to go and take tests from him, Mount Hope, dentistry tests. He had to make sure he had no communicable disease, all sorts of. That took 4 months. We got him into Dolce's compound Preparo. I don't use the term, but Preparo. Curtis spent 9 months, came out. When Curtis came out of the compound, there was no place for Curtis to go. There was no halfway house. He was making a chance to change his life. There was no halfway house to hold him, for someone to hold his hand. So we had to rent a space for him. And within a matter of 2 months, Curtis went back onto the drugs. There was no, the environment wasn't there to rehab him. What sort of cruel society have we become, brothers and sisters, when we can't look out for the less fortunate in society, when we can't take that extra step, spend that extra amount to reach out? And do you know something? The Preparo facility closed at the end of 2022. And there's no facility, as far as we know, to put these people who have been on this, who are addicts. How do we help our addicts in the society? We say they're addicts and leave them on the streets? Porous Spain is, there are dozens of them all over, you know. Dozens. Society is decaying. Porous Spain is decaying. They're all over. How do we help them? Do we take them into a small program for 2 months or 3 months? What you're really doing, because they're not really going to change according to medical science. You need longer periods. You need to hold them. You need to win their trust. You need to win their confidence. So I just give you 2 examples, brothers and sisters. One, if anybody want to help this young guy who's coming out, he's 17 years, I have a number. Please put up, you can meet me afterwards. I don't have any job for him. If anyone, businessman is willing to do the assistance to help him. And please, can we have a scientific, compassionate approach to rehabilitation? Let us help the people who have fallen off the wagon. Let Trinidad and Tobago also be a land of second chances. Thank you very much.
I now invite Mr. Singh to give his perspective on this topic.
I don't think that any discussion on rehabilitation and reform in the context of the criminal justice system can move forward without addressing something which has traditionally been forgotten. Everyone concentrates on the rehabilitation and reform of the offenders. But you know who has slipped away into the dark and largely forgotten and left on their own? It is the victims of serious crime. The victims of sexual assault. The victim of violent sexual assault. The child victims. The victims of home invasions who cannot sleep at night because of the trauma which they have endured at the hands of the criminals. Now, I am all, please don't get me wrong, I am all for achieving a measure of balance in a just society where the offenders' attention is paid to rehabilitating offenders. But I think in this process, we must not lose sight that certain types of crime in and by themselves attract a measure of lingering trauma on victims if they survive, and the families who survive violent crime. And something has to be done in the entire process. I mean, sociologists have a name for it. They call it restorative justice. But too much emphasis is placed on the reformation of the offender without considering how do we treat the trauma of the victim. Now, I put that out there because I think it is something in any system of reformation, when you look at it in a wholesome manner, you cannot leave the victim out. You can't ignore people who have been the victims of serious crime. The families. No one recovers from that, you know. No one truly recovers from a home invasion where in the middle of the night you are assaulted by unknown assailants and you don't know what's going to happen. Who recovers from that? And nothing is there to treat those people. So that has to be addressed. The other thing which has to be addressed is, as Devesh has said, the prison reintegration system. Now, in the UK and most civilized societies, how it works is that after a while, when you've accumulated enough points, you've demonstrated good behavior, you've demonstrated a measure of reform, you're allowed to leave during the day, work, and come back on supervision. So you are not released, staring into the world, not knowing where to go. Now, I remember early in my career doing a case for a guy called Donaldson Motley. After 20 years being released by Justice Paula May Weeks when she was a trial judge, this guy, when he walked out, would never have seen the Twin Towers. Porous was a completely different place. How was he going to survive? How was he going to be reintegrated into society if you did not have a system in place for that reintegration? The reintegration takes place in a slow, drip by drip way in the last few years of your prison sentence, where you slowly reintroduce the offender. But you must make sure that only those who are deserving of it are allowed to come back out. The same thing with the remission. You can't release a prisoner who has benefited of a tutor's reduction in his sentence, and he walks out without any obligation to society to behave himself and not commit further crime. You've just gotten 2/3 sentence. Think about the gravity. You've gotten a 1/3 discount of your sentence, but you walk out free. No obligation. The law has to be amended that if you reoffend, you go back to prison to serve your term. If you breach it and you consort with known criminals, you go back to prison. In America, that's what the parole system is. Yes, you're released early, but you have to behave. You misbehave, guess what? Back you go. So, it is a challenging aspect of reform. It is not something which law-abiding citizens really understand. But it is something that has to be addressed in a holistic manner. Both the victims and the offenders have to be taken care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. And political leader, I just want to raise a point here. They're speaking about these youth programs, taking care of the young people. Recently, I raised the issues at the St. George's College. They spent $10 million to fix a roof, or attempt to repair a roof probably smaller than this hall. Then the school closed because of sewer problems. I'm now being told that the school is again closed today because of sewer problems. That's the St. George's College. So if they can't take care of the students and the children, you expect them to do more complex things as what Mr. Singh is proposing. And I want to leave you all with some food for thought. I had looked, before I come here, I looked at the 7th Joint Select Committee report on Finance and Legal Affairs, which is an inquiry into the wider application of non-custodial penalties in the criminal justice system in Trinidad and Tobago, and the issues discussed with the Ministry of National Security, which they confirmed, hear this, they confirmed that the maintenance of a prisoner is over $15,000 per month. So we are spending $15,000 per month for the maintenance of a prisoner, and this is coming out from the Ministry of National Security in this JSC report. So I hand you over to the political leader.
Thank you very much. We have some plans that we are formulating, and it's interesting to hear some of those are closely linked with what you've been raising, both of you. So for example, we talk about non-custodial sentencing. It's $15,000, you say, per month, Saddam, to keep a prisoner. It comes out, yes, from finance, but where does finance get that money? From your pocket. The taxpayers then pay $15,000 to house a prisoner, okay, per month. Do the maths for the year, for the 5 years, for the 10 years. So we have been considering what Saddam mentioned as non-custodial sentences, but it's also tied to what both guys have told us here, the panelists, about the GPS bracelets. You can do non-custodial, you can have the bracelets, yes? I like how Jagdeo Singh put it, he say, if you have 10 bracelets in one room, you know it's a criminal conspiracy taking place, meaning 10 persons and the bracelets will tell you, look, they're down the road in St. George's College maybe. Something not good is going down, okay? So the bracelets one. Two, I've been considering, we have been considering doing work release. Again, if you have a GPS bracelet, they can be released during the day, work release. And another thing I've been considering is setting up, having smaller prisons spread out through the country so people are closer to their communities, to their homes, and to their families. So their families can visit them, families can help us take care of them. Those are some thoughts, and of course today we'll be getting some other thoughts on how it works. With respect to rehabilitation, restorative justice, and so on that my two colleagues have spoken about, both sides are important. The rehabilitation of offenders who are coming out, as well as victims, and the victims are now outstripping the bandits. Isn't that true? We're having more and more victims because when bandits go into one home, there's a whole family that is terrorized. So that is also a very, very important factor. And now we are seeing the bandits in the schools. The bullying in the schools. MP Barry spoke about bullying on a private motion in the parliament on Friday. That is another serious thing that's happening, you know. So it's in the schools, it's everywhere. If we don't get this, come back to the trajectory we're on, we're heading down to a worse road, worse than Haiti. So I will not speak much more. And Saddam, can you let us know where we are now? We have one more topic for our two panelists, and then we open the floor to you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, political leader. So now we have finished off the other topics. We are going to ask our presenters to provide us with some insight using their years and years of experience on the way forward with treating with the problems and the inefficiencies of the court systems, in particular the criminal justice system. So I'm going to ask Mr. Maharaj again to please lead off the discussion on the way forward from some of the issues that he has identified.
Thanks again, Saddam. In what I proposed that some emphasis be placed on in terms of mediation, what is the attitude of legal practitioners towards mediation? The attitude is that many young practitioners have qualified and been certified in mediation. So there's a wide swath of people, of practitioners, who want to get involved in mediation. When you get involved in mediation, you solve 3/4 of the problems that end up in court, right? So they want and they would like the emphasis to be on mediation, a large part of the population. They would like a more participatory approach, so maybe through the law association, more advances can be made from the law association at the bar and the bench when collaborative discussions are taking place for that to take place. That's one of the issues. The other issue that we have found is that this digital divide has taken place. You know, since COVID, everything is now digital. You file digital, you have online, your virtual hearings and so on. You find a large part of the older practitioners, not me, I am not that old, who have been left behind. They don't know how to operate these fancy full equipment. They don't have setups in their offices, you know, so it's very tough for them, right? I don't know if anything could be done to bridge that gap between the practitioners, the younger practitioners and the older practitioners, some camaraderie to take place with that. Also, there's an increasing frustration with our young practitioners too, when you have to go, and we discussed this with the company's registry, the probate registry and all of that, there's a growing discontent about it because our population, to the clients who they served, are not being served properly. So, I mean, how do we resolve that situation, you know, from a practitioner's point of view, right? Then there is the access. Of course, the young people and practitioners generally are complaining about the access to justice. You know, long ago, you could have walked into the Hall of Justice in Port-au-Spain, and you could have gone and seen a case in action. You would see a judge, you would see the formidable lawyers, the senior counsels and the QCs on the bench. You would sit there and you would learn. Where do they go now? There's nowhere to go now for the young people to learn. You can't go, first of all, you have to get to the Hyatt. You have to go through the heavy security arrangements. The courtrooms are very small. There's not that learning process and that interactive process where so many of them are being denied. And we have hundreds of lawyers coming out every year. What is happening to the standard of the profession? In this profession, as a leader will tell you, I would tell you, you work with people who are very proficient, who are very learned, and they will tell you how to address a court, how to speak to a court, the decency, the courteousness.
If you'll permit me, I remember when I came out into practice, you said the seniors will tell us how to address a court. And you remember Norma Maynard Marshall, who was a senior in San Fernando. They didn't just tell you how to address a court, they told you how to dress to go to court.
And I remember the political leader in the San Fernando court. You know, I remember her in court. And she said, "Dev, you have a poker face." I always remember that. I don't know what she meant by that. Maybe I wasn't smiling, I was frightened of her. But those are the things that, because of the change in the system, when a young lawyer is deprived of this training and this learning, it affects the delivery of justice. It affects how they serve their clients, you know. And generally, the judges, you can tell from the judges. Yesterday, I attended one of the bar calls for a number of young lawyers who I called, and the judges were saying, you know, when young lawyers appear before them, they don't know how to speak. They don't know how to address the court. So, in all of this, in the fast-changing technological world and the changes that's taking place in the profession, an important component, apart from you being the consumer of the justice product, you, the people, being the consumer, we as lawyers are stakeholders. And there are a lot of ways that we can use to benefit the system. Thank you very much, Saddam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maharaj. I now quickly invite Mr. Singh to address us on his perspectives on the way forward.
I just want to agree with what Devesh has said. I think the way forward in strengthening the legal profession is exactly what Devesh has said. But I think we need to lend a measure of context to that, okay? Now, it's common around the world for people to bash lawyers. Of course, yes, and sometimes it's a deserving thing. But no constitutional democracy, none, no constitutional democracy can survive without the active participation and spirit of public-spirited and public-minded lawyers who are not willing to sit back and tolerate administrative bad behavior without taking governments to court. It is the cornerstone of the rule of law. You may hate us as lawyers. You may dislike us. You may find that we charge too much money. You may find that we are snobbish. You may find that we are uppity. But guess what? Yes, we may be guilty of, or some of us may be guilty of all of that. But then again, there are some of us who will, and it has repeatedly been said in Porous, Spain, that it is only the opposition lawyers, it is only the lawyers who are affiliated with the UNC who are willing to challenge the government. So that is why when the PNM is in power, you have the floodgates of litigation is open. And you know why? Because UNC lawyers don't tolerate administrative bad behavior. We will take you to court. I have almost 100 cases pending against Ulla Christopher. And I'm not going to give up. Devesh was in Brent Thomas. One of the worst examples of abuse of power in this country. Up to today, nobody could say who authorized that plane to go to Barbados and pick up that man and bring him to Trinidad outside the law. Everybody knows who did it, but nobody wants to say. If it were not for the spirit of lawyers like Devesh Maharaj, myself, Anand Ramlogan, Gerald Ramdeen, and a few of us, public service and administrations would run roughshod over us. So, yes, the reformation of the legal profession is the cornerstone of the rule of law. You may not like us, but let's face it, we are the vanguards of your freedom. Understand that. And what Devesh has said is lawyers need to be provided with opportunities for training. I went to the Court of Appeal many years ago, and this young lawyer from San Fernando came up wearing a robe and a tie. And I turned around and said, "Young man, come here." I said, "Why are you wearing that?" He said, "Well, this is not what you're supposed to wear." So I went into my bag, took out a pair of bands, I said, "Go outside, take out that tie, put on this, and come back in here." And this is because of the breakdown of chambers, and not enough chambers and not enough opportunities. That is where the biggest challenge is to the legal profession, and the continuous closure of the Magistrates Court and the High Court, where young lawyers don't get their opportunities. No one can really teach you law, you know. Devesh will tell you this, and Leader will tell you this. You go to lectures, you get inspired, you get ideas. But your inner sense of the law and what the law should be and what drives you, that spirit, that unseen and unheard spirit that tells you in your head, hey, as people say in Trinidad, something not right here, man. This can't be right. This had to be wrong. And that is what real lawyers do. And the opportunities young lawyers get, you can only get it from senior lawyers. And if you are not giving them the opportunities, here's what? A broken legal profession. And bear this in mind. A broken, divided, dismantled, and desiccated legal profession is the beginning of the start of anarchy. It is the beginning of the start of despotism, and it is the beginning of the start of the complete abandonment of the rule of law. Always bear that in mind. So the way forward is, Leader, to find a way that we take the politics out of the legal profession and we restore the legal profession as the vanguard of the rule of law. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. Now, the Leader, during her budget response, outlined several plans in order to deal with some of these issues that these two prominent attorneys have raised this evening on this platform. So I now pass you over back to the political leader to outline some of those plans for us.
Thank you very much. I know the time is moving swiftly because this conversation has been really, really inspiring for all of us. So let's thank all our panelists. And as Jagdeo mentioned, about the young man you had to pull in and tell him, hey, you have to wear your lawyer's bands. If you're going into court, you have to wear the bands. In that way, the judges know you're a lawyer. In that way, the person sitting in the court know you're a lawyer. And whatever it is a tradition to wear the bands. But I'll tell you something. Again, as a young lawyer graduating, going out into the courts in San Fernando, in those days, we didn't have the new courthouse. We had the old Supreme Court building. You all may be too young to remember it. So it was an old wooden building. And I remember going to court and we were sitting there. And there's this judge who was a very stern judge. I will not name her. Everyone was terrified of her, as all the young ones, but some of the older ones too. And a particular lawyer walked into the courthouse and open, my lady, I represent Jagdeo Singh, I represent Mr. McIntyre or Johnny or Persad, whoever. She said, I do not see you. What's going on here? I do not see you, please sit down. And he kept insisting, I am the attorney at law representing whoever it is. I don't see you. And you know what? I don't even hear you. Get out of this courtroom. You know why? He was wearing the wrong clothing. He was wearing the wrong color jacket. And I hear you when you say the younger ones, you recently had that experience. So as we talk about addressing the judges and dressing to go to court, there are reasons for these traditions. You know, a man walking into the courthouse with a short pants or a jeans. These are traditions that we follow for the respect that is due to the judiciary and the courts of law. So I just thought I'd share that with you, and I have many more stories I could tell from all those years spent in courthouses all over the country. And I'll be happy to share them with some of the younger lawyers. Maybe we can have a gathering. What do you all think? Bring in the younger lawyers and have a little formal session, yes? And we can share, yeah, we can do that. I'll ask you two lawyers, senior, to help us and others. Let's put it together and we can do an informal session that we can share our experiences, you know. But we have a new person who will soon be a lawyer, MP, Dr. Sicharan. MP Sicharan is a doctor dentist, but the man has been studying law for how many years, who will soon probably graduate. So congratulate him. Arnold has graduated a few years now. Dave Tanku graduated a few years now. And we have young Chris Hosein across there. Yes. Is that? Which one are the doctors? Okay, they tell me Tim has an LLB. Maybe should go ahead and get it. I don't know if that's true, but. Oh, so you do have an LLB, a Bachelor of Law. Not yet. Oh, you're doing. Okay. These are halfway there then. You soon get there. Let me just say some things quickly because we do want to hear from you. We do want your suggestions and comments. So, one of the things we propose to do for the Justice Reform Project is to undertake a review of all criminal laws to weed out obsolete laws. We have so many statutes on our statute books that are just obsolete. And not only are they obsolete, they are oppressive to a free and democratic society. We need a review of all of those. We will need to, I think we did it before, and of course, no support under Mr. Pandey's government to categorize murders and whatever into first degree, second degree. I don't see why someone would object to that. Because there are degrees in other countries where, again, it's not as brutal as it is here. You both spoke about delaying, and therefore we propose to introduce a constitutional right of an accused to have a trial within a reasonable time. You both mentioned in other countries what happens there, and it is something we will have precedent elsewhere that we can copy and trim to suit our situation. Further, place victims at the center of the criminal justice system from the beginning. Provide support for victims, including restitution, job placements, housing, and social programs. Due to the current low detection rate and conviction rate, this support will be given regardless of whether someone is caught or convicted. Once you're a victim, we must give support to victims. I recall working on a piece of law known as the Criminal Injuries Compensation Act that we had passed some years ago, maybe it's under the Pandey government. And I remember, yes, it was under Mr. Pandey, I had worked on that piece of law. And it was to provide victims of crime with at least some level of compensation. I don't know the status of that now because this government is not very good at helping people. So I'll ask Saddam to do research. They're supposed to put out a report every year as well, an annual report. So let's check it and see if they've helped any victims at all. Jags, are you aware of it?
The board has been convened. I know that they were appointed, but I want to let you know a little secret. Nearly every statutory authority in this country has to provide a report to the Parliament on an annual basis. 95% of them fail to provide that. And the most important one is tapping of telephones. The only report provided is when we took them to court in 2016. They provided all the reports up to then, and they have stopped because it reveals the extent of illegal wiretapping in this country. But Saddam and I will do some research on that, leader.
Thank you very much. And as you mentioned, that the board, for the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board, I had to take them to court as well. We had passed the law, I had to take them 1 year to court to actually put the board in place because we'd call it, what is it? Breach of statutory duty. Their statutory duty was to appoint a board. Never did. Yes, writ of mandamus. I remember it well. Only after I did that, they set up a board, but then they have to renew these boards, and they're not doing it. It's happening in almost every sector, you're right, in every statutory body that this government is looking after. So we will take a look at what's happening with that. I think the maximum under that was $50,000. Huh? So that was so many years ago. It means it's something we may have to review to make sure we can assist victims, falling upon crimes. We talked about providing resources to ensure that cases involving offenses against children and sexual offenses are determined rapidly. I am putting out for discussion that we raise the legal age for marijuana use and gambling to 25 years and older. This government legalized marijuana, but the medical science, the medical evidence is that those under 25, the thing that marijuana does to your brain can damage you, fry your brain forever. So it is something we'll consider. Someone told me, don't say that, please. I said, why? They said, well, people 18 years and over could vote. And if you tell them you're going to take away the gambling and take away the marijuana, they may not vote for you. I say, no, let us do the right thing because what? It is the right thing to do. We will do it. Increase the number of functional courtrooms. We talked about the courtrooms. There is a deficit in the number of courtrooms. Each judge of the High Court must have a designated courtroom to ensure that that judge can sit on any given day. Do you know how many judges we have, any one of you? Now, High Court judges? How many High Court judges? Okay, we think 500 caseload. So courtroom increase, judiciary increases, and your issue of the specialized courts with expertise to man it. Provide more courtrooms in highly populated areas outside the capital. Shall go on us. Rio Claro, Grande, and Saddam has reminded me, San Fernando has no criminal court. Diego Martin, I don't mind Diego Martin belongs to somebody else, but the people of Diego Martin deserve better. We should have those courts. Increase key support in the judiciary to reduce the backlog. Bring indictable cases to trial within 2 to 3 years. Create smaller detention centers around the country to break up gang activity and to ensure closer family support to prisoners by enabling regular visiting rights. We will also ensure that incarcerated persons are allowed frequent visits from their children. We should establish low security prisons for first-time non-violent offenders with work release during the day and, of course, with the bracelets. Modernize prisons and break up large prisons into smaller ones where you can better monitor inmates. Utilize intelligence services for crime fighting and not for spying on political opponents, which Jags just reminded us about, the wiretapping, the phone tapping. Utilize that to use for intelligence gathering, not for spying on opponents. It was my government that brought the Interception of Communications Act, because we discovered that the then government had been spying on trade unionists, on lawyers, on me, politicians, and strange enough, they were spying also on their own MPs and senators. We brought that law, but as you say, they have not been keeping up with their statutory duty to file the reports, and that is something we may have to take them to court for as well. It's a very important factor. Now remember, there are 3 agencies that are authorized under our law, that piece of law, to bring, to do wiretapping. One is TTPS, but of a high level. Second is the SSA. You remember the SSA, anybody? Remember that we were told that the officers in the SSA were planning a coup. What has happened with that? Nothing. We asked a question, was it last day in Parliament or a couple of days ago, about the SSA and where they said they were planning a coup and they were supposed to get, I think it's Dr. Monilal, am I correct? The question was, have you done an audit of what went on? Where is equipment? Where is everything? Whatever was happening. It was that SSA that was spying on everybody prior to 2010, you know. So we don't know what's happening there. If this government found out that they're spying on them and they fired everybody, we don't know what happened. So intelligence services used for crime fighting and not for political spying. Long, if I can turn the page. Implement, yes, appropriate social programs, training and life skills training to prevent or to help prevent repeat offenders. Reform and reorient the education system to cater to all children, not just academically gifted ones. We need to identify young persons with disabilities, vulnerabilities, so they can be channeled into productive activities. I saw recently somewhere in the United Kingdom, an autistic child, well now grown up, became a professor at a university. So just because you have some learning vulnerabilities, don't throw them away into the dustbin somewhere. We need to pick up, and sometimes these challenged persons are very, very talented and very gifted, but you have to challenge them in the right direction. Our education system at the moment is not geared for this, does not care. I remember we had built in my government down in Central, a center there for children with disabilities. They shut it down. Vandana is here somewhere. MP Vandana. That center for persons with disabilities. This government shut it down. And it was the mayor of Shogunas, together with MP Vandana, that we were able to source an alternative place to put these children, you know. They really just have no care. We should encourage the participation of NGOs and service organizations in mentoring youth. We must target and mentor at-risk youth to prevent them from falling under the influence of the gangs. Provide support for single parents, after-school care. You remember all the homework centers we set up? Homework centers, after-school care. Parents are working, a place that children could be safe. They shut it down. They shut down all of them. They shut down the community comfort patrols. You remember it, Mr. McIntyre, Mr. Abraham? The community comfort patrols shut down. And the communities are just going to the bandits now. Moving along, some other suggestions we can share as follows. I think we need to look at reforming the judge alone trial process to provide for 3 judges to sit in capital cases. Capital cases are murder and so on, with the death penalty. Yeah. You can't leave it in the hands of one judge alone. This is a man's life that is a risk. To consider putting back the 3 judges. No, there was always one judge. But there was a jury. So they did this judge alone without the jury, and I still think that is something that needs to be looked at. We must invest in the DPP's office and the Public Defender's Office for better conditions. DPP office is overworked and understaffed and under-resourced in every regard. And underpaid, definitely. I think in the SRC report, hopefully there's something for the DPP as well. Introduce a system of rewards for police officers and divisions where crime is being kept low. If you're doing good in a division, we should incentivize the police officers, reward them for bringing down the crime in their district. That is something we can consider. So if the good officer getting the same pay as the bad officers, there is no incentive. We have to find a way to create that incentive so they will all step up to the plate and work harder. Work with stakeholders to convene a national consultation on crime and justice within 1 month of forming government. Revamp plea bargaining legislation. Revamp and refurbish magistrates' court infrastructure. That has deteriorated substantially, and as you're saying now, is all these Zoom courtrooms rather than virtual courtrooms. Ensure capital cases are heard and determined expeditiously. And there are others here which I will share with you at another time because I do want us to get to hearing from you. Just some simple suggestions. I had raised many of them in my budget reply, and it's out there on our website that you can take a look, those of you who have an interest, and give us feedback. So again, I thank you very much. Saddam, back to you. Thank you all very much.
I want you all to just give our panelists this evening a very hearty round of applause for this very interesting, revealing and insightful discussion we had this evening on the court systems, the criminal justice system, and the civil division. So now we want to hear from you, members of the audience, with respect to your views, your perspectives, and your questions with respect to the panel. Now, what we will do, because we're running a bit behind on time, we will ask about 2 or 3 of you all to make your presentation, and then I'll ask the panelists to respond as we go along.
Pleasant good night to each and every one of you, members of the head table. I'm here to speak to represent my organization. I'm the president of the Arangwes Taxi Driver Association. And I have 2 topics to speak on tonight, but I will only speak on one, the most important one, because I wanted to speak on traffic and crime, but I will speak on crime. 2015. The reason why I mentioned 2015, since 2015, I've been attending to every single police town hall meeting, right? And I've been raising this issue. I asked for a camera to be facing obliquely opposite our taxi stand. The reason why I asked for that, because I realized that there's no cameras facing our taxi stand. So it could indicate, show that if anybody enter our taxi, if anything happened, the police would be able to assist. Right. 3 things happened on 3 different occasions. One of our taxi drivers was robbed. He robbed off his car. They never hear nothing about it. The second occasion, 3 persons enter a taxi, or one of our taxi, and one of our taxi drivers was stabbed 19 times. That's the second occasion. And the third occasion is that one of our taxi driver again, 4 persons entered the car, and he was robbed, he was murdered. Until this date, nobody was held accountable for that. So what I'm doing, I want to ask the opposition leader, Madam Opposition Leader, I want to ask if you could work together with me to help work with my crime plan. That is one. and also the traffic plan, which is most important, because wondering that if the state-owned company in NP collaborating to have traffic not resolved.
Perhaps before you go, Saddam, we could consider doing a motion in Parliament on this matter of the camera for the taxi stand, the Aranguez taxi stand. We can raise it in the Parliament. Okay, so I'll instruct MP Saddam to draft and file, please. Okay, thank you.
Leader, the panel, ladies and gentlemen, good night. My contribution will be brief. Criminal justice system, as outlined by the esteemed panel, it is something that each and every one of us experience somewhere along the line. It affects all different sectors. I'm particularly concerned about the law enforcement sector because it forms a critical part of the law, the criminal justice reform system. Because just as how they outlined, the
I'm sorry. When you come to speak, would you be kind enough to give us your name?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Kenny McIntyre. I'm a retired senior superintendent of police. Just as outlined by Mr. Jagdeo, I had the privilege of working with him as a young officer, and he was a young attorney as well. We knew what it was like to be in that era. We were guided. We had reliable people to guide us. Crime was at its minimal. Procedures were followed to the letter, and we had people at the pinnacle, at the helm, knew what they were doing, and they tolerated no nonsense. We were guided as well. You know how to dress in court, how to address the court, being on time, prepare file, and everything else. You go in court, you're properly well whipped, you learn from that. Don't take it personal. You learn from that. You go, prepare a case, and come back. Don't take it personal. You lost a case. It means to say you have to improve your system. It also means that you have to give people the benefit of the doubt if you don't have your evidence. Fast forwarding to today, what we have is a total breakdown of the entire system. The entire system. Incompetence at its highest. In my 40 years, I've never been so ashamed. What is happening in the law enforcement industry? We held people at high esteem. We treated people fairly. Because you, the citizen, are our source in which we get our information from, and you must be treated with respect. You must be treated with the integrity. Even though he might be a criminal, quote unquote, he must be afforded the privilege of any citizen of this country. Because why? Because we are not taking it personal. It has reached such a stage where home invasions, they don't care. They kill down to your dog. Children, old people, it doesn't matter. Senselessly. This must stop. So, Mr. Bissessar, before I leave, I'm asking you to consider law enforcement as part of the reformation process in the criminal justice system. Good officers to be complimented and awarded, and those who are found with some level of impropriety, they are to face the consequences of these actions. No exceptions. Thank you.
Good evening. Clive Graham is the name. I live in the constituency of my representative there, Saddam Hosein, my political leader. Before I say what I come to, I heard the fellow away from the Aranguez taxi driver talking about cameras. But let me give you a little experience with that corner. Police officers on duty. A young fella, probably might be breaking the law, selling what they call it, fruits. They put him in handcuffs. And across the bus route, drug selling. And at the next corner, drug selling. You understand? So, and a little further up the street, a police car is parked. And two fellas sit down right by the car smoking a spliff. This says a lot. This says a lot. Apart from that, illegal playway, playing so, and playing so, and the police station in the middle. And when you leave that, let me see what I come to say. While I was sitting here, two words came to me about what everybody was saying. Everybody have their thing. Why and fix. I had to change fix to create. Why? Because, lady, you have work to do. You have work to do. Because, let me tell all you something. We feel it's a management problem, thing had to thing. It's not a management problem, you have to have something to manage. Because you can't take a barrel of faces and put a little bit of sugar in it and feel it go turn to face, sugar. Okay? Sorry I had to cut it short, it's only 3 minutes I have. Because my political mentor tell us, you know what I mean, how we think, we just work till we come to a thing. I have Tatya, man. Lloyd Best is my mentor. I ashamed to say it, right? And I prepare to sit down and work. We have work to do. I don't envy you. But somebody had to do it. With fellas like Saddam, you think it happened, right? Now, why had to change it from fix for that reason? You have to create. The question of why. Crime, everything starts in the mind. And if we fix the minds of the people, we will have less work for fellas like them, lawyer and them. You understand what I'm saying? So, we have to fix it. When I say it starts in the mind, we have to take a holistic approach to crime. We cannot only think about law enforcement, the education. We have musicians. Let me make it short. You have done? All right. We have musicians. We have yoga is something that helps the mind. What are we doing in the schools? If we take a holistic approach, yes, we have the crime going on. We have to deal with that. But we have to create a new set of people so that later on we won't have so much crime.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Graham,
Hi,
thank
boss.
you very much.
Thank you very much. We need a holistic approach in every sector. Thank you for your comments.
Good night, everyone. Steve Atwaru. I represent the Batara Police Station Council, as well as the Sawhill Police Station Council, one of the younger members. Let me just remind everybody that the last allocation to Ministry of National Security was just under 7 billion. But Batara Police Station still have a proper printer at this time. And police still wearing bulletproof vests from the 1980s. Derelict cars in the yard, out the yard. If you want to go and make a report, you have to park 2 streets down to walk to the station because we don't have a place to put these things, right? But I can represent from more the police side of things. So police officers carry firearms on a daily basis, and they can't get FULs. Trying to understand how the TTPS train and trust police officers to carry every day a firearm on a hip amongst the public. But when they take the uniform off, they are no longer fit to carry a firearm. And the reason for bringing up that is the foiled attempt of the robbery in Arangwes with the Blue Water truck. It was a off-duty police officer pulled his licensed firearm. As for a lot of foil attempts and groceries, it was off-duty officers who had their fuel. So why is it that the negative influence could carry all this amount of firepower, but the police officers who already trained psychologically, everything, you're giving it during the day, you can't give it off duty. Also on police, we have a problem in Batara where the inspectors change so regular. Since COVID, we had Archibald, then Ram Singh, Bharat come in, and now we have Inspector Nash, and he is leaving in December. We don't even know who coming in January. So from the time we build a little trust in our police station, in our inspector in charge station, they root them out and go somewhere else. They must have, when you ask the senior superintendent for Northeastern, why is this? We can't really get a proper answer. They just need them somewhere else. But we also need it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for
Thank
that,
you very
Madam.
much. That complaint you're making about the Baratara station is about every station. So you told me they have no printer, but do they have paper? And it's happening in many, many stations. They don't have just basic supplies. It's a serious, serious problem. And yet it's how much? $7 billion allocated. So it's the management. We always say it's the management. Go ahead, sir.
Honorable Kamla Persad Bissessar, my esteemed MP, Saddam Hosein, who is the easiest MP to get access to. Welcome to the community of Barataria.
I hope Saddam didn't tell you to say that.
No. I have a direct line with his private phone.
Go ahead. He's a good MP.
Crime is a burning issue in Trinidad and Tobago minds of the citizen. And as the previous speaker said, I am also a member of the Barataria Council, the Police Council. But Barataria have 5 groups, all active. You get the community council group, you get the Barataria Emergency Neighborhood Watch, which is a WhatsApp group. And this WhatsApp group covers most of Barataria streets. We see a strange person, a strange car, we tell the person on Sparrow Avenue, Third Avenue, hey, and so on. We also have the Barataria Police Youth Group, which is the main reason I am here. Now, political leader, we talk about crime, but I was born in 1944. That is 80 years ago. And I'm telling you, what I'm seeing today, or what I'm seeing my 80 years in Trinidad and Tobago is appalling today. And we can fix this. Now, we have a police youth group with 96 members, led by WPC Howard. Our main issue, our main sticking ground is we want a place, a permanent place where we can train these youths in computer science, social science, train them to get a job. Right in the back here, I have about 20 corporations. And we can train these youths who are the most vulnerable for crime in the community to be good citizens. But we need the help with the establishment. We have to get a building. Right now, these youths meeting in the school next door here, and that is not enough.
What about this community, this regional complex?
Political leader, the way we see it is the temporary coming here, the complex would not cut it to mold the youth. Barataria have many vacant buildings, many. And
who owns those buildings? They're vacant, but somebody owns them.
Well, what I'm saying is, if the establishment is serious about solving crime.
Yeah, but I'm saying to you, in the interim, this complex seems a good place. In other communities, they're using community centers. But to say that we can, I mean, very easy to say, yes, I'll give you a building, okay? Which I can't.
Not you.
Not me. The government, even the government. If every police youth club wants a building, where is it going to come from? So I'm suggesting where there are existing community centers and existing complexes like this. Who owns this building, Saddam?
Government.
This regional complex? the community development.
So it's a government building.
There's a board that runs it.
Okay.
Anyhow, you could discuss it with Saddam and
definitely.
consider applying to use this in the interim.
But also, political leader,
Sure.
we have about 20 corporations in the back here.
When you say corporation, what do you mean? But those are private companies.
Yes, but they in our community, and they got to help us in our community.
Listen, I don't want to get in trouble taking private people property, you know.
No,
Then I'll have to look for 2 lawyers or 3 lawyers to defend me.
But political leader, what
Yes, sir.
what I could tell you is that the Barter Youth Group, the police youth group, held a very successful Christmas dinner right at this venue last year. So they do utilize the venue. I have been in contact with WPC Howard also, and we normally would partner with them in certain events that they have. So Mr. Russell, your comments and your concerns are taken, and we will have further dialogue with the police youth
Thank
group.
you very much. Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, good evening to the panel and political leader. I have a very brief question. There was a lot of comparisons to the US and other jurisdictions. In terms of the monopolies that are rising in Trinidad, there is an American, Lena Khan, spearheading the Free Trade Commission. Is there any prerogative to spearhead that in Trinidad by anybody? Thank you.
Well, I think the corresponding legislation in Trinidad would be the Fair Trade Commission that we have in Trinidad. I don't know how effective it is. I know there have been complaints, for example, by pharmacies about pharmaceutical monopolies, and I don't know how far they have gotten with it, but I know about the US counterpart. They do a lot of work. They break up Google, they broke up all the big corporations, they prevent monopolies, encourage competition. So I think it's a fair question. I think when next year when UNC gets into power, that's one of the things that needs to be addressed immediately, how to deal with monopolies and competition.
If you could give me 1 minute. The most pressing problem that this country faces with fair trade is something that everyone in this room uses every single day. That is the subject of a growing, creeping, and unhindered monopoly. And it is pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals, the distribution power for pharmaceuticals in this country is astonishingly concentrated in one company. One company sells you all your pharmaceuticals in no civilized country. Can that be right or should be permitted? And Devesh is right. The Fair Trade Commission has sat by and allowed these mergers to continue, whilst the distributorship for pharmaceuticals continues to shrink and to shrink and to shrink. And overnight, before you know it, every Panadol, every Cafanol, and every tablet you buy will come from one company. Every bottle of Vicks, as the leader says. That can't be right. And it is up to us to strengthen the Fair Trade Commission legislation. And the legislation is there, you know. The Commission can hold public hearings. They can hold people accountable. But yet, there seems to be an unwillingness to enforce the legislation. Once again.
Well, there are certain parts of the legislation which need to be proclaimed.
Yes, I agree.
To give it more teeth, and there's a reluctance apparently to do it for some reason or the other. And maybe we need to look into that and find out why they don't proclaim the other parts of it. How is it that when a merger is taking place with 2 or 3 companies that are dealing in the same business, they come to you and they ask you for an opinion, whether or not what they're doing is right. And then you give them a carte blanche opinion and said, yes, go ahead. That can't be correct. The United States is very vigorous about that. I think we need to adopt a more aggressive approach towards dealing with these business groups. Otherwise, what is going to happen is that the strong is going to get stronger. No one is going to protect the weak.
The rich will get richer. You remember those words? And you're asking why? Why is this happening? 3 letters. F, F, F. Friends, family, and finances. So you're right, they're not working with it. And that's why you say we needed lawyers. Lawyers will see these things, they'll help us. That Fair Trade Commission should be working overtime. So I'm totally in support of your question. And thank you, Dev and Jax, for your replies. Can we move along, please?
Before we go to the next speaker, I just have an announcement. Can the drivers of TDS 2720, PDW 1660, and PDR 7911 attend to your vehicle urgently? I heard the PNM is near it. Yeah.
My name is Ibrahim Ali, and I want to get to the point because one of those numbers belong to me. Leader of the opposition, leader of the United National Congress, and soon to be Prime Minister. Mr. Devesh Maharaj, Mr. Jagdeo Singh, and my MP Saddam Hosein, I address you here tonight not on some of the topics that you spoke about. The judiciary is a high one, the reform is much higher, and the people's reluctance to do it who are in power is overbearingly not going to listen to us. So I will talk on crime and its effect on business and the economy generally in Trinidad and Tobago. Overall, crime has impacted negatively on every citizen of our beloved country. We must understand that crime is a behavior that develops into a culture, and if allowed, will sooner or later take over the entire nation. This is the case where we are at now in Trinidad and Tobago. San Juan is a large economic space in Trinidad that has developed into a major contributor to the economic advancement of our nation and plays a significant role in the employment and social development of our country. The impact that runaway crime endemic has on Trinidad and Tobago is causing the collapse of many small and micro businesses in the region of San Juan and the country as a whole. We here in this area have seen the closure of many small SMEs due to the fact of the rise in criminal activities, the impact of extortion on business sector, the impact of kidnapping that has become rampant throughout the country, the impact on home invasions in Trinidad and Tobago, the impact on break-ins throughout San Juan and throughout Trinidad and Tobago.
Ms. Ali, I understand and appreciate, but there are several others. So if you can make your points, I see you have an entire script there.
Well, let me go to one major point.
Yeah, this is what I'm asking. Select your main points.
The impact of forex shortages as it relates to crime, the importing of drugs, guns, ammunition, and other illicit items of which are only bought using scarce foreign currency. We all know that the drug economy is possibly equivalent to our national GDP. So this would have serious concern for the depletion of foreign currency in our nation. The impact of not adherence of accountability as it relates to the Auditor General's report of $3 billion unaccounted funds, instead much foreign expenditures on foreign solicitors, challenges the Auditor General's position. Forex is wasted away while our citizens are blamed for using their credit cards. How do we deal with these shortcomings as a nation when the powers are not listening to their citizens? Instead, we are just hearing repeated rhetoric after rhetoric over and over again. Can we as a nation survive this? Our only hope is to install a government that cares about the welfare of its nation, a government that has innovative ideas of stimulating the economy through expansion of agriculture, health, tourism, and the sporting sector of this country. A government that cares of educating its nation and providing jobs on a continuous basis. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, I implore you, I seriously ask each and every one of you, become an activist for change. Become an activist that is relevant to what is happening in this country, and call every one of your friends, family, wherever they are in this country, to support this nation. Ladies and gentlemen, good night.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Ali.
much, Mr. Ali. Thank you.
I'm being told that we only have time for 4 more persons to make contributions, so. You'll get a lie up. Sergio, you'll get a lie up.
Good afternoon to the head table. Good evening to members. My name is Nadine Romani, and I would like to talk about the youths and crime. The reality of it is that our youths no longer have equal opportunity. The opportunity that you all had, they no longer have it, because the government service, I am saying the service out there, is designed so that as people age, they come out of the system at age 60, and the young ones are supposed to come in. We spend millions of dollars training our youths annually. And there is no opportunity for them, because they keep these members as their employees as they reach age 60. Instead of they come out of the system, they bring them back on contract. So there is no opening for our youths. Let us face reality and not put our head in the sand. Right? We are creating this problem. We have the majority of the security officers out there, when you look, are female officers. They have to reach the work for 6 o'clock in the morning, and they finish work at 6 o'clock in the evening. Who taking care of their children? Who is preparing their children for school on a morning? When their children get home on an evening, where is the supervision? Our youths no longer have the equal opportunity. Everything now is on contract, 3-month contract. No permanent employment for our youths. They have to keep fighting and doing whatever the boss say because they want to renew their contract. Is that equal opportunity in this country? Is it? It cannot be fair for our youths, and we keep blaming them. Right? Trinidad and Tobago have too much unemployed youths to increase retirement age to age 60. 65. Right? Too much. Everybody here could tell you about a block with the youths just lining whole day. Having training for them, and we paying them a little stipend. After that, what? What is there for them?
So thank you very much for those
Just
very
now,
insightful
thank you.
comments.
Just now, because I could get very emotional where this is concerned, right? And in one way to treat with it, and I'm surprised that, we haven't talked about that before. You see this property tax? Property tax supposed to go straight to the regional corporations. Straight to the regional corporations. Property tax supposed to go so that you could benefit, so that our youths could benefit, because the regional corporation is also responsible for employment, employing the youths in your community. Right? Let us not get property tax tied up just like the road tax, and we don't know where the money going. Our Minister of Works and Transport has already distancing himself from minor roads.
Right, Madam,
Right?
I thank you,
Thank you very much.
We don't want a whole budget speech here today. We know every sector is impacted financially, human resource-wise, every sector is collapsing. So we thank you for raising the issue of the youth and that contract employment. I've already met with many trade unions, and that issue of short-term contract employment is something that we intend to tackle when you put us back into government. So thank you very much.
Pleasant good night to the boss lady, Ms. Kamla, Persad, Bissessar. But I acknowledge.
Can you come closer to the mic, please?
The head table, everybody, Mr. Saddam, Hosein, and everybody. I won't belong here tonight, you know. My name is Kamla, and I come from Lopino, Bone West, right? And what my is...
Can you raise the mic, please, Michael?
Okay, hearing? My name is Kamla, and I come from Lopino, Bone West, right? I won't belong, but my issue is about the TTPS, right? What I want to know is have good police officers and it also have rogue police officers, right? I want to know how police officers could go and kill two innocent people 2 o'clock in the morning, right? And make a lot of allegations, right? And the PCA is investigated it, and these fellas went to plant garden in Mayaru, and they killed them 2 o'clock in the morning because of a land bacchanal, and people is boasting, is also allegations, but I heard of this one, that they paid the police and they called the shots, right? And 2 families remain without their family, 2 young men, right? And just waiting and to see what will happen, right? So we need to fix the police service. We need to fix the police service, and we need to get proper people to run the police service.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner and all of that.
Thank you very much.
Right?
Thank you, Kamalito. Thank you.
Good night. Opposition leader, all protocols observed. I would not be long, I promise all of that, right? My name is Safraz Ali. I'm here in my capacity as the Vice President of the Arangwes Community Council and also a Director with the Agricultural Society, Trinidad and Tobago, and I want to raise 2 issues. But before I raise those 2 issues, we are in real trouble in Trinidad and Tobago. When you have a Prime Minister in a CARICOM event saying, PM tells CARICOM heads no safe harbors for criminals in Caribbean. Brothers and sisters, you hear lie? That is lie. Because everybody knows Trinidad and Tobago borders are porous. Then he comes and says crime is a public health emergency. I am putting it to everybody that he is a public health emergency. And we need to get rid of him. Anyway, the 2 issues. Number 1, leader of the opposition. We have a serious problem in El Sicuro and Arangwes. We are being overrun by Spanish. It is uncontrolled, and every corner you look, it's Spanish. It's so bad right now that predial larceny in the Arangwes farm area skyrocket. Just today a farmer, just now, about half an hour before this meeting, a farmer called me almost in tears. He said, "No thief my pump." He turned his back for 2 hours, going home to eat dinner and come back, pump gone. He told us Spanish to clear the field for him. Look like the Spanish clear other things too. Right? That's one. So I am asking, pleading that when the UNC comes in power, let us put things in place to get back our country, please. The second thing is, that's from the agriculture standpoint. From the community standpoint, Arangwes is hot right now. Somehow the criminals like Arangwes and they like home invasions. It was so bad last year that the residents had a meeting, an emergency meeting in the community center in Arangwes, and Mr. Hines came. He came, uninvited, but he came. And he gave a promise that he's going to increase the amount of police vehicles for the Northeast Division. You know what happened after that? Every time we called and spoke with the authorities in the Barataria police station, we were being told that there's only 1 functioning vehicle.
Hines promised budget after budget, even in this one, that he's going to buy more and more new vehicles. So my question to Mr. Hines, where the police vehicles go on, where the new vehicles go on, just like the missing $3.4 billion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Safraz, I want to make a comment on this matter. You raised it about the Venezuelans. Is that what your concern? It is a concern of many people in Trinidad and Tobago. The government has failed to put in place any proper migrant policies. We have no proper migrant policies in place, and that is something we will look at. It cannot be that the Venezuelans have been given a home here. It cannot be not only are they given a home, they don't pay taxes, but they utilize the hospitals, they utilize our schools. Yes, we have bleeding hearts and we feel sorry, but there must be a proper migrant policy with respect to the Venezuelans. One, when you put us back into government, we will implement that policy, but that policy will have to be this, that the Venice will have to prove where were you working for the past 3 years? You have any pay slip, any company that you worked? Because if you were not working somewhere, how you living? Banditry? If we give you a home here, you have to prove that you're worthy to remain here and that you're not working against law-abiding citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. That is something people say, well, yes, trees migrate and go and we have to get help. You see what Trump is doing? If you don't behave yourself here, go back home. Go back home. Trinis first. Safety first. Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone. My name is Heavy, radio talk show host, social media activist. Good night. All protocols observed. Now we're talking crime, right? And check. Yeah, check. Yeah, we're talking crime. And all night I hear about crime, criminals. But I hear nobody talking about the real criminals. You see the real criminals? You see the one who misappropriating, mismanaging, and thieving up the public purse, the taxpayers' money, the hard working. We want to know what's going on with them. We want to know how we're going to get back all these billions of dollars that is missing. We want to know how we're going to get back this wastage in Naikwan and all this wastage of money that out there and we suffering. All this over $91 billion borrowed, right? And we have nothing to show for it. Nothing. Everything not working. Healthcare, education, roads, everything not working. So all the money gone. Where the money gone? To me, them is the biggest criminals in the country. To me, them creating criminals. They say fish is rotten from the head. You understand? So I want to know if it's something we could do so that when this government gets in power, we can go after the real criminals. We can go after the real criminals. Because the young people, they want to know. They want to know, are they just going to walk into the sunset like Bush Cassidy and the Sundance Kid with all the money? With the bag? No, they can't do that. They have to be held accountable. The citizens of Trinidad and Tobago want justice. For the last 9 years, we want justice. And I hope we get that under the UNC and Kamla Persad Bissessar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I noticed that we have several persons lined up, Saddam. So can we ask you if we want to accommodate everybody? Heavy, thank you for your comments. They were well appreciated, Heavy. For the others here now, can we try to keep it a little shorter so that everyone gets a say? Okay? Thank you very much.
Political leader, the last person we have in the line is the gentleman who's raising his hand.
Okay, so the others are not in the line. Okay, thanks. Let's move along then.
Pleasant good night to one and all. My name is Curtis Anthony O'Brady, economical social and political columnist in all dailies.
Johnny,
I'm also from a wonderful borough of Arima, which will soon go to the United National Congress. To the Honorable Mrs. Kamla Persad Bissessar of SC, the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and to all the esteemed, wonderful senior colleagues, and to all the wonderful people out here tonight, I say thank you for coming out. Keep Christopher Rowley, the Grinch that stole Christmas. Wait. A man who sat, before I stumble. A man who sat cowardly with some fake emails, knowing it fake, you know. For 6 months, the man jumped, he whined, he pranced, he misbehaved, he even drank a beer. After 6 months, that man, that coward of a man, ran in to the greatest halls, which is the freedom halls of our people of Trinidad and Tobago, and committed one of the world's treasonous acts in the Western Hemisphere. And today, that SOB is the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the biggest criminal in Trinidad and Tobago. And he hasn't paid for that yet, you know, but time longer than twine. And he will pay for it very soon.
Okay, thank you very much, Curtis.
Okay, Curtis,
We are
thank you very much. Thank you.
Greetings, all, one and all protocol observed. My point here tonight, I would be about 15 minutes if I wanted to talk. But I was told to ask the political leader if she's going to bring everybody on board, welcome everybody. I see some of the prodigal sons here tonight, and I'm happy to see that. So, madam, I'm begging, they're begging me outside there to bring Michaela Pandey to you. But I don't know who bowing to who. But I would really love if you could, if there's a way. They're telling me to go to you to get to her. I don't know. She said she tried to get, if she had to go to your window, she tried, but she didn't get through.
Well, if you could reach her before me, ask her who is funding her party.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and another thing, I have to tell Saddam to watch himself. Somebody's encroaching. I'm not a legend. And the name is Manning. They're offering millions to break up the Pari in Barrett area. You have to be careful. Right? The name is Manning. They're offering certain amount of dollars. With regards to the 12 police officers, madam, Mr. West and the commissioner said they're not leaving it. They're going towards it. I want to talk more because it's will be too much.
Thank you very much.
Special good evening, everyone, political leader, members of the panel, my MP. My name is Azim Mandol, born and bred in El Socorro, still in El Socorro. And I understand that I'm the last speaker, and I have one observation to make, and this is perhaps a good way to end it. And political leader, you would have touched on it before, and Mr. Singh as well. And I want to just make mention of what we do as a society in the messaging that we give on crime. You spoke about blaming this one, blaming that one, blaming the other. You spoke about victim support. A lot of the messaging that we give on crime is actually victim blaming. In fact, there is a TV show that the police service partners with, a daily show. And on that show, they are supposed to report on criminality and how they handle it. But more often than not, they resort to victim blaming. What I mean by that? So, he was robbed because he had too much cash on him. Or because the gold chain was too nice. The car was stolen because she left it running to go and close the gate right behind her. My wife was robbed in downtown Port of Spain while driving through in traffic in downtown Port of Spain. And the police officer at the station while making the report says, "You work in town 20 years now and you know better than that." Because you see, she was wrong because she wore a bracelet to go to work. She was wrong because she was driving through Port of Spain at 8 a.m. with the glass down. All of these incidents, all of these examples put the blame squarely on the victim. And we are not putting the focus on the criminals. And that does a number of things. It absolves the criminal of any responsibility. Number two, it adds to the trauma. Mr. Singh, you spoke about the trauma victims go through. It adds further to the trauma. They're already going through that hardship, that pain of the burglary or whatever it is itself. Plus, post that, we are telling them, you know what? You get that because it's your fault. Now, that also rolls into my third point where, because of these things, crime is not being reported as much. Because why should I go and report a crime to the police only to hear, well, you know, you look for that? The criminals know they can get away with it because the focus is not on them. And I'll end with this point because I understand there's a long line behind me. Well, I'll still end with this point. And that is, are we really saying as a nation that the solution to crime is to not walk with cash, is to not wear a gold chain, is to lock up yourself in your house, make sure all those burglar proof and gating, all those things are locked up? Are we saying that this is the solution to crime? Or is that really burying our heads in the sand and hiding from the criminal and giving them the win? I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of those who have taken their time to come and give their views and opinion on these very pressing matters. So I just want to give the political leader an opportunity to make her closing comments. And I hope you all enjoyed this very informative and insightful panel discussion on the criminal justice system and the other issues affecting the judiciary.
Thank you very much, MP Saddam. Let's thank the MP for helping us organize. Deputy Leader Jalen John, thanks for your assistance. MP Padarat, who is our party organizer. And of course, let's thank all those who contributed to make this evening happen. Our very distinguished panelists. We wish they would speak out more because today has been really wonderful. All the comments that we got, and I'm sure there's more. But what happens with these lawyers, you know, they get so busy. So tomorrow is what, Tuesday morning? The fellas have to go to court 9 o'clock in the morning, and then afternoon they have to see clients. But I really thank them for the valuable time and contributions shared with us today. Our next meeting will be held next Monday. Well, first, the pavement report is in the constituency of Pointe-a-Pierre. MP David Lee, Barry Padarat, the South Coordinator, will coordinate pavement report on Thursday, okay? Then next Monday, which will be the 2nd of December. 2nd of December. Next Monday, 2nd December, we'll have a Monday night reporter, which is a different format from these town halls. That will be held in the La Joqueta Talparo constituency venue. Is the venue decided? Not as yet, okay, we'll advise you. But so, what I say, save the dates, payment report Thursday, and next Monday the 2nd for 2 upcoming meetings. All of you get home safe, go brave. We'll continue to meet with you. Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless.